All right, so my name is Bill Watson. I've been asked to chair the next session, which is on the future of non-drug trials. So I think from the start, we need to remember that Cancer Trials Ireland is Cancer Trials Ireland and not Cancer Drug Trials Ireland, all right? So its remit is much broader than just drug trials. And that has, and we'll have one of our panel members talking about radiation studies, so that is well covered within its remit. It's also, we need to remember that cancer trials are primary mechanisms for evaluating and advancing new cancer treatments. So those are drug treatments, but also radiation treatments, but also, as we heard earlier on this morning, surgical treatments. And it's great to see the initiative that Angela has developed to get a more larger surgical involvement. And I think that's a very important part of what we should be doing. But also diet and exercise, these potentially are going to be treatments into the future. So the other important thing that we need to remember is that we shouldn't just be assessing clinical outcomes. And Siobhan is here to talk about patient-reported outcomes. This is a very important part of the research that we should be doing because we may have a very good treatment for a drug or for a cancer, but is it acceptable within the community? And should these issues around patient-reported outcomes be addressed? And then, of course, we need to know better about the biological understanding of the disease, so translational studies. And there was a time, not so long ago, that we used to talk about every clinical trial having a complementary translational component to it, for a number of reasons, so that we would understand the biology of the disease. And I was fortunate to be part of the C-Trial 1324 study, which was looking at abiratrone before radiation therapy for men with high-risk prostate cancer. And we collected a range of biological samples, and we were able to identify a proteomic signature which monitored the response to that treatment, but more importantly, pre-treatment identified men who would respond and who would not respond. So these translational studies are very, very important to understand why studies work and ultimately why they fail, because then we can modify them so that they have better outcomes. So we've got 6 panel members that have very kindly agreed to give their insight into various aspects of non-drug trials. And from that, then, we'll have a panel discussion and try and discuss what are the core sort of requirements or supports that are needed to drive these very important aspects. So our first presenter is Veronica McInerny, who is from University of Galway, and she's launched a cancer network, and she's going to talk about nurse-led trials. So, Veronica, thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and I'm delighted here to be asked today to talk about nurse-led trials. And just to start, I suppose I'm hearing the theme of my presentation right throughout the morning, so which is good. I suppose in 2001, the Foundation Stones of Cancer Trials program was established. And for those of us that were fortuitous enough to be present at that exciting time and are still lucky enough to be here today, looking back, we remembered all that there was an absence of infrastructure. We had a greenfield site, and over the past number of years, our portfolio of trials has begun. Now let me just bring up my slides here. Are they there? Okay. Sorry. Oh yes, thank you. Can you see them now? Okay. And actually I might change this as well, Ken, here, so that I can see this here.
Yep, they'll start sharing your slides in a moment.
Thank you. Okay. So we're now reaping the benefits of the cancer trials, and as Bill has said, this is not just about drug trials, but for the past 20 years, really, the focus, and initially it was on drug trials, and this is what I'm excited to be here about today, to look into the future for non-drug trials. But we've been reaping the benefits. I've done a quick search on clinicaltrials.gov and the EU clinical trials database, and our success, we've been quite successful. There's 1,200 trials registered, cancer trials registered on those databases that have already taken place in Ireland. This has led to improved survival outcomes, broadening but not, shifting our need to focus on cancer prevention, survivorship, and other aspects of care and service delivery, which is very important. These aspects of the journey are very conducive to nurse-led trials. Now, we have lots of cancer service nurses here in Ireland, and I could confidently say every cancer nurse has undertaken some observational study. But in terms of the clinical trials, they're limited, in my opinion, in my observation, they were limited. So in order to identify how many nurse-led trials are actually registered, I did look at the same databases, and I just included the mesh term nursing and cancer in Ireland. And we can see out of that 1,200 trials, there's 21 trials that have those terms. Now, that's a crude observation, but nonetheless, I think it's pretty reflective of what is happening on the ground. So, how do we compare internationally? Well, in the US, we can see that there's been over 500 clinical trials registered. This is on the clinicaltrials.gov website. Comparing ourselves to a country with same-size population, Denmark, they've 75 trials, and we are at a meagre 7. So we have a long way to catch up. Why are these numbers suboptimal? Well, there's a tendency, and I'm sure we have all felt that sometime along the line, a tendency to disregard non-drug treatments, including lifestyle and surgical interventions, and the EU regulations for clinical trial registration apply only to drug and device. So there may be an underestimation for that reason, that they're not actually, we're missing database, we're missing a completion of database and the data, which is very important to authenticate and validate research. Then, as we know, the same as existed 20 years ago, the challenges including staff turnover, commitment training, workload, etc., all of those things are impacting the performance for nurse-led cancer trials here in Ireland. And those challenges, I would suspect, will continue right through. So we need to focus on what we do have and what we need to capitalise on what exists. So the foundations, unlike our when we started back in this clinical trial programme over 20 years ago, where there was very little established, the foundations for conducting nurse-led trials now is well established. There is infrastructural supports to enable nurse-led trials. The Health Research Board, TMRN, PPI Ignite, our clinical research facilities, the Irish Cancer Society is very supportive. And then also as well, we've got our interdisciplinary collaboration and supports. In addition to that, nurses possess very effective skills in communication, patient education, etc., and are also in a unique position, equipped with direct patient insight. We understand the logistics and the pathways of patients, and that is essential for trial design and execution. And finally, cancer trials are now considered a standard. So this is an expectation from patients and the organisation. So we have all these things to build on. Okay. the enablers for nurse-led cancer trials, advancements in technology, has allowed us and allows us now to take more patient-centred approach trials and conduct decentralised trials. And our colleagues in UCD, Catherine O'Brien and her colleagues, have already undertaken some research and found that nurses who are involved in actually conducting trials, it encouraged and led to more confidence and competence. And trials became a part of the routine. So we need to start working more actively on engaging and actually doing clinical trials. Improve international collaborations and established research priorities have also strengthened our position for funding, and we can see those collaborations have developed over the years. The Department of Health is prioritising research practice, and also meetings like today where we strategise, work together and set realistic targets as a national group to take steps in leading out on nurse-led trials is very important. Like the energy 20 years ago, the energy now for conducting nurse-led trials is palpable, so we need to harness that. And I think my last slide is stuck. Okay, so my very last slide is we need to harness the energy and get off the fence and just bite the bullet. Thank you.